All right, Mark, how are you today?
I'm very well, Stuart. You yourself?
Looking good. You've been a bit sick, you tell me.
Yep, came back from the UK and managed to pick up the flu. So there we go.
How was your UK experience?
Very different to the Costa del Sol in February, shall we say. It was very cold. I don't think it went above 3 degrees. And I made the mistake of being sick and then going to a football match and sitting in 2.5 hours in a concrete stadium. So I'm that's it, really. Cinema.
What team do you support there?
I support Oxford United, who are a small little team. So I try and support them when I go home and give the club some of my hard-earned money. But it probably wasn't the wisest move, since I wasn't very well.
No, that's it, in those cold temperatures. And
Yeah.
any reflections on life in the UK? You said that you noticed some of the differences there when it comes to the food that seems to be
I,
promoted all the time.
I always go back to the UK and think, could I move back here? And there's certain things, I think everybody misses about their own country. But one thing I did notice was everywhere it seemed to be offers on unhealthy food. So I stopped at a petrol station on my way back to my mother's house, and everywhere you looked, it was buy one, get one free, duo pack, crisps and this everywhere. And it just seemed to be a bit more unhealthy society. And dare I say it, people did seem a bit more chunky than before.
Okay, you picked up on that. All right, good. Yeah, I think obviously fast food is the trend that societies are taking nowadays. I've talked about it here in Spain as well. Fast food is popping up all over the place. Hamburger seems to the humble hamburger seems to have become the number one cuisine for many people. At least here in Madrid, I don't know what it's like down where
What,
you are there,
what
but
is the population of where you actually live?
in my little city,
Yeah,
yeah, it's over 100,000.
well, that's quite a lot. We have between, I think it's 55, 60,000 here, but we have 5 Burger Kings.
Yeah, well, yeah. So Burger King's been around for a long time, but all of these other burger joints have just popped up in recent times. I don't know whether you've got them in Malaga, but there's one called Goico Grill, and they seem to be trying to outdo each other by the amount of stuff that you can cram into a burger, the amount of different cheeses, the sauces, all of these things. And Burger King, in comparison, is just a simple burger, um, compared to what you can get nowadays. And you've got your Taco Bells, you've got this, you've got all of these other things which I don't understand it, given that Spanish cuisine prides itself on being so healthy and all of these things, and everybody loves Spanish food. They talk about it like it's
Yeah.
the best in the world. And I know that you guys put out a video the other day on Spanish food, talking about some things, which we'll plug your channel towards the end. But
Thank you.
the fast food, just creeps in because whether it's convenience, whether it's cost, whether it's just people want something different, or if you go to a shopping center, there's not really a lot of healthy choices.
No, we recently they built another park here, a kind of sports orientated park with kind of free paddle, little football pitches, and a skateboard thing, which is very good for the local community. But what I've noticed since they built that, they've now built a McDonald's. There was a Burger King there already, and now a Kentucky Fried Chicken. So it's almost like, oh look, there's going to be lots of kids here at the park. Let's put some fast food places next to it.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that because I know in Australia, and I don't never like to compare, but whenever they talk about putting a McDonald's anywhere near a school, the local communities are up in arms. How are you going to do this? We need to promote healthy eating amongst children. If they want to find a McDonald's, they can find it, but just don't put it next to a school where it's just in their face all the time. Um, and here, where I live, it's the same thing. There's two schools, and in the middle, they've put a Burger King.
Okay, I mean, they had the same kind of thing when they did the smoking thing, that you weren't allowed to smoke within 200 meters of a school or something like that. But
nobody pays attention to that.
and or a hospital as well, and you stand outside a hospital and it's like clouds of smoke still.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
I don't think there's much. I think the local council would probably look at the job creation over morals, I think.
Well, maybe. I don't know. But these are all things that do have long-term consequences, though, right? So I don't know. It's a complicated question. Now we'll move on to what we planned to talk about today, which was the Luis Rubiales kiss scandal, which came to an end yesterday. Actually, it probably hasn't come to an end because the player involved in that kiss, the Spanish woman's Representative Jenny Hermoso has said that she's going to challenge the decision. So it's going to drag on. So we'll see how this one ends up. Basically, the scandal, a lot of people are saying that this is a storm in a teacup. Nothing, it shouldn't have gone to court, etc. It was just a kiss. It was maybe cause for resignation, maybe cause for an apology, but it went into the court system and became a very, very high-profile case. Some people are calling it Spain's Me Too moment. What's your opinion, Mark, on this? Too much, or was it justified?
I wouldn't say I feel sorry for Rubiales, because I don't think he's the greatest human being in the world. Maybe it's gone a bit too far, but probably Spain needed it. It might give Spain a bit of a slap around the face to wake it up a bit, because the machismo thing, especially down south where I am, I can't speak from where you are, is still quite strong in society here. And even people's reaction to the case has been almost stirred up more machismo, if anything else. So, I mean, I think it's fair enough he's lost his job. I think if we did that in any workplace, we would lose our jobs. I found it quite disappointing that they fined him 10,000, but that was going to the state rather than to the footballer herself.
No, well, she gets 3.
Yeah, but I had one here recently, and I had to do put a denuncia against somebody for harassment, and it got 1 in my favour, so they weren't allowed to come near my business. Yet the state was awarded £500, or €500, I should say, and I got nothing.
So what's the state? What are they getting money?
Well, they're getting the money. I mean, obviously they're going to have to pay for the court cases and things like that. That money, the 10,000 fine, that's not going to anybody but back into the system, is it?
So he was fined that. So that's just court costs. What we
would I would imagine so. That's okay. For that. I mean, she's not getting any of that, is she? It's a silly one. But I wouldn't say, I said before, I wouldn't feel sorry for the chap. I mean, there's a despicable moment when they scored their goal in the final. He grabbed his groin and the big Tomaya in front of some of the younger members of the royal family. So it kind of shows you where his mindset is. But unfortunately, a lot of people are like that here.
Well, not only here. Let's put that on the record as well. This type of it's as I said, the Spain's Me Too movement. They're calling it toxic masculinity, and the question a lot of people are asking themselves is, how are these type of people still getting to the top in these positions and having an influence on Spanish society? Because let's be true, they do. When you see Rubiales on the television, and everybody in Spain was watching that game, grabbing his crotch, saying, as you said, "Toma ya," this is what we are,
Yeah.
And other young men see that and perhaps see that as an example to follow. And I think that's the big problem that what Spain is trying to stamp out, right? This toxic masculinity. And you mentioned that you've got a couple of teenage daughters. I think they're teenagers, right?
Yeah, 15 and 17.
15 and 17. So they're right in that prime age where they're socializing with boys and whatever happens nowadays with the younger populations in their friendship groups. And this is still an issue, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, my older daughter's on the verge of going to the UK to study politics, so she's quite sharp as a tack, and she likes to look at society in general and observe it and break it down. And when I told her that we might be having a chat about this subject, she says, well, it all comes in one package. It's people who are homophobic, people are racist, people are macho. It's almost like and she hated to say it, she said it's almost a certain type of person. And where we are down here in the south, we live in a very conservative, traditional Spanish town. There's nothing wrong with that. They have good values and things like that. But they have a certain mindset too. She says the girls will have to dress the same way. If you've cut your hair slightly short, straight away they call you a lesbian. One of the interesting things she said was about she felt a lot of the machismo came from the female side. Interesting. People accept the men, their role model should be this. And then that's what a man should be, this is what a female should be. I know Vox are very keen on that particular narrative. But one thing I didn't know was, she mentioned the thing you probably know more about me, la sección femenina, which was part of Spanish society up until after Franco died, which basically was putting certain values into women's minds, which wasn't that long ago.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of the problems that Spain face today are carry over from that period. That a lot of people have the mentality that was forged on people, because we're talking about a regime that was in power for 40 years, or maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit less, but a long time to shape the way people think in this country. And interesting, I mentioned it in the live stream that I did yesterday. There's a documentary that's been put on the social media sites about this case, this Rubiales case. And before, the previous coach, who lost his job as a result of this as well, because a lot of people were saying he was quite incompetent with what he was doing, didn't really understand the way the women's team should work. He was very controlling. One of the stories is that he used to, whenever the team had these team lunches or dinners, the two captain and vice captain had to be constantly looking him in the eyes so as not to be talking, or at least him. He had the impression that they're talking about him behind his back. You know what I mean? So very, very, very controlling type of behaviour. And the person he took over from had the job for 37 years, I think. It was 37 years, or maybe it's 27. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. But we're talking a long time in the position. And there's video evidence of this person basically physically abusing women, grabbing them on the cheeks and pulling their cheeks, pulling them by the hair, the typical maybe a little bottom slap as well, boom, boom, And that's the type of thing that has been in that organization for a long time, and they've said that the sexism was rampant. For example, this macho culture in control of a woman's team, and very difficult to get rid of that type of culture.
It's a strange one, the whole sexism thing in Spain. But one thing I was quite surprised with here is in the town where I live. We since I've been here, we've had 2 female mayors. So you think they are role models for society? Yet the women, be it the young girls in my daughter's school, they all stick to stereotypes. Nobody wants to do engineering. They all want to be nurses or hairdressers, and they're almost scared to mention the fact they want to do something different. It's interesting that my younger daughter, she was disagreeing with what my older daughter was saying, that her class, a teacher kind of addressed issues of using derogatory terms, and they were more on a par. In fact, she's been attending a course in Malaga University, encouraging women to get into sciences and into things like that. How long these things will take to blend into society or seep into society is another matter.
Well, it could be different where you are, of course, because Andalusia is, as you said, one of the more traditional parts of the country. You only have to go to the Semana Santa week down there in Malaga or Seville or Cordoba to see what goes on, and a lot of those values are probably trying to be still imposed on the youth, for maybe directly or indirectly. I've got no idea, and it could be different in other parts of the country that are not as traditional as that. But it is something which did capture the attention of the world, and because of the antics, and at the time everybody else was offering their hand to shake. The King of Spain offered his hand, the Queen of Spain offered her hand. He was the only person that took it on to grab somebody by the head and smack a kiss on that person's lips.
I'm sure he regrets that to this. He regret that moment to the day he dies.
Well, I don't know whether I'm sure that he still thinks that he was in the right to do what he did. I don't. This is another characteristic here, Mark, is a lot of people don't. The leopard can't change their spots. Sorry.
We talk about this big female win for the World Cup, which is a huge moment for Spain. And what's very interesting down here, we have a very nationalistic type of local community here. They're very Spanish. When the Catalans do something, they get their Spanish flags out. When Spain wins something, they get their Spanish flags out. It's very right wing, this town. But what was very interesting was when Spain were in that World Cup final, it was hardly getting any mention. Nobody was talking about it. Here, obviously in the parts of Spain differently. And even my daughter said at school, nobody was making a deal of it. Oh, it's women's football. But you think because it's Spain, it would have gone further, and it would have come a thing about nationality and nationalism, but it never really penetrated society in this little corner of the world, really.
I think it picked up towards the final. I think the final was when people started to pay more attention to it. But of course, the victory was quickly overshadowed by the controversy surrounding that kiss and what went on subsequently. So that was definitely a shame. But I will agree with something that I think you mentioned before, that your daughter said that a lot of these people are not only sexist, but you throw the racism in there as well.
Yeah.
And there was something else you mentioned as well.
Homophobic.
Homophobic, of course, yeah. So really they're the full bag, right?
Well, we talk a lot of politics in my house, and we do it very openly and try and understand why rather than taking sides. And I'm constantly to say to her, she got a lot of classmates who are from a pretty upper class in society down here, and a lot of their families vote Vox, and she's very critical of them. And I said, you have to understand why they vote Vox. Think why. What's the thing? But those people are the ones who go to church every Sunday. They're very traditionalist. The Semana Santa's the main kind of like a huge event for them. Well, there's other kids who aren't quite like that, but it is a very traditional way. I know Vox are very keen to get in with the youngsters, and they managed to make great progress with these.
Well, they're big on social media.
Yeah, TikTok, and there was a lot of young kids wearing the Spanish little things, which basically was a sign of nationalism and pro Vox, really, which is quite sad that the flag gets hijacked in that particular way. But that's the state of affairs it was.
Yeah. I don't know whether something similar happens in the UK. In Australia, we have the Australia Day debate where all of this merchandise comes on sale, and the Australian flag, and you've got your beach towels and all of those things. And some people do criticize that as toxic nationalism again. But of course, here in Spain, it is quite a controversial topic still. You talk to people over the years, a lot of people are not proud of the flag. And then the other side is that people are very, very proud of the flag, which is what you're mentioning there, where you go around with the symbols on your wrist, or in your car, you have the little symbols hanging down from the mirror. So, yeah, you can see these things on display all the time.
Did you notice? I don't know if you noticed. I mean, I look at my time here in Spain since 2002. And when I got here, the Spanish in general around here were quite low-key, didn't very, very keep themselves to themselves, not really kind of very vocal about many things. And then suddenly you had this period when Spain were very successful with Fernando Alonso, Nadal, the World Cup wins, the Euro Cup wins, and suddenly they start becoming really proud to be Spanish. And you have that song Soy Español, they sing it over and over again. And it suddenly gave them a kind of like, well, we're not downtrodden, we are Spanish, we are the best. And it kind of elevated their, almost, I wouldn't say ego, but it gave them a lot of self-belief, which has then gone like this, which in many ways is not justified.
Yeah. Well, again, the songs that you mentioned there, the national anthem doesn't have any lyrics at all.
No.
So in the UK, with is it "God Save the King"? The national anthem.
It is, yes, "God Save the King."
So that's quite a proud moment when everyone stands up in front of a rugby game and sings that, right? In
Yep.
Australia, it's called Advanced Australia Fair. People sing up, they sing it, but here it's like
Yeah.
So the only way they can express themselves is through songs like that one there, because they're the songs that really try to whip up the nationalism, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You try and talk to people. I mean, you look at a controversial thing like Gibraltar, for example. And when I had my business, we had social media. And one day I saw one of my customers had written a joke, and the punchline was, I stood in something nasty on the pavement, and Gibraltar is Spanish. So I said to him that night, I said, I saw your joke on social media. So why do you think Gibraltar is Spanish? And the Treaty of Ulrich. And his argument was, it's Spanish. He couldn't have anything. No, you don't understand, Mark. It's Spanish. And that's just complete nationalism there, built on nothing apart from he's been told it's Spanish, it should be Spanish, and can't make an argument pro or con against it, even though it is a very controversial subject and you can make arguments on both sides. But he had nothing apart from it's Spanish.
Well, again, the simplistic argument there is just that, right? I mean, you look where it's located. You could quite easily come to that conclusion that why is this not Spanish, right?
Yeah.
But of course, you go through the history and you look at, as you said, the treaties, the wars, all of these things that were taking place at the time. And I think that if we just ignore the nuances and only go down that simplistic path, I think that's when we start to get into trouble with things like this.
Definitely.
And political parties are pushing that simplistic tone, right? So
yeah, because it stirs up nationalism, stirs up a certain narrative for certain political parties. So we are Spanish, we're better. We are proud to be Spanish.
That's right.
You're losing your identity.
That's right. But then again, if you talk about, I think we spoke about Gibraltar maybe last time we spoke, that a lot of people in that region depend on that economy to put food on the table. Would it be the same if it was in Spanish hands? So I mean, the debates are very, very. There's a lot of deep debates here with regard to these things, not just the simplistic point of view. And I think going back to what we were speaking about before, everything, if you don't want to have a headache, don't think too much about anything, right?
Yeah.
But you'll never really solve the problem going down that line. And I think we have been taken over by the simplistic option nowadays rather than the more complex one, which a lot of people just can't understand or don't want to understand, I think, about many, many topics.
I think social media has a lot to do with that. There was some weird stat the other day. I read that most people don't even click on a headline, and they just follow the headline and take that as the truth. As we all know, people who are a bit more savvy, the headline is usually clickbait anyhow to get you into the article. So it's a sad time, but I think it's the same across a lot of the world at the moment, where, be it in the States, be it in the UK, be it in Germany, there's a much more simplistic way of looking at things when things aren't quite so simplistic.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. Now, just going to your channel, we'll give it a plug. What's the name of it again, Mark?
I'll try and get it right this time.
Oh, you got it wrong, did you, last time?
I did. You corrected me. Very embarrassing. It's called Life in Spain Unfiltered.
Life in Spain Unfiltered.
Yeah.
As opposed to the filtered version.
Well, it's going okay. We're finding our feet. Well, I said, as you said before, we just done a video on Spanish food, which was very enjoyable. But I thought it would be a very popular video, but it seems to be our least popular one. So who knows what to do? But we're doing all right. We've been going for about a month now. So
the Spanish food. We'll just talk about it quickly. We'll come back to it. You said, what did you say was your favorite type of Spanish food?
Oh, I love the calamaritos. Would probably be my favorite, which is baby squid. So I do love those with some alioli, some garlic mayonnaise.
Yeah. In Madrid, we call those chopitos.
I did see that when I was looking on the internet. I was quite surprised to find it was called something else in other regions of Spain.
And anything else, or that was it? Fried squid.
Well, I do. I think I touched it on the video. I do love a serenito de pollo, which is like a kind of a sandwich dish here. I just had people sitting next to me in a restaurant eating it just now, and it's basically chicken with roasted peppers, serrano ham, garlic mayonnaise in a big baguette, and it's lovely. But it's not the particularly healthiest thing in the world. But it's a delightful thing to eat.
Well, I suppose it's not too bad, is it? Just a piece of bread, some chicken, bit of ham, some vegetables.
I think it's the garlic mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise is what,
because it's quite heavy on the garlic mayonnaise, which gives it its unique taste. But that's a delicious sandwich.
Yeah, that's from the south. I think it originates from Sevilla, I think.
And you, what would you say your favourite Spanish dishes?
I don't really have a favourite. I'm a person that would eat anything, anytime. I don't like the cold soups, for example. I'll eat them maybe once a year, but I would never order them in a restaurant. If I find salmorejo just too thick, gazpacho, on the other hand, is just too watery. Maybe on a hot day it goes down well, but I would just prefer a salad over something like that. And then when it comes to some of the other things that Spanish people absolutely rave about, yeah, they're okay. But I went to a Peruvian restaurant the other day, and for me, the quality of the food was better than any restaurant that I've tried in recent times, and I've been doing a lot of restaurant reviews.
Yeah,
and that the quality of the food that I got for the same price was better. It was more my type of food, if that makes sense. A lot of the dishes here, I think are overrated. I find some of the dishes quite stodgy. I don't think they're anything special. They're not bad, but I'm not going to be traveling halfway around the world to eat some of the dishes here. And paella, for example, which everybody raves about, these rice dishes, if you don't get a good one, it's an absolute rubbish.
I don't like that at all. I've never liked a paella. I tell you what's interesting though, because you go to Portugal a lot, and when we went to Portugal with the family a couple of years ago, I was surprised at the freshness of the salads there compared to here, where vegetables and salads aren't particularly good here in Spain. But we were ordering the piri piri chicken in Portugal, which is a traditional dish there, and it come with these amazing salads of just literally onion, tomato, and lettuce.
Yeah, very simple.
So fresh, so nice.
Yeah, they do things quite well. I mean, a lot of these places pride themselves on the freshness of their food, for example. But I struggle sometimes. My biggest criticism of Spanish food, not to dent your thoughts there on the calamaritos, is that there's too much fried food. You go into some places and then everything, 9 out of 15 things on the menu are fried. Croquetas, calamares, chopitos. So I can't see that as a very healthy option.
Spanish fish and chips, Stuart. So they criticise the Brits for their fish and chips, but is patatas bravas and calamaritos is fried fish and chips.
Well, I mean, it's great. It's great every now and again. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're sitting in Malaga on the beach in one of these chiringuitos and they bring out some fried fish, fantastic. But to go into a bar and basically everything is fried.
Yeah,
there does seem to be a lack of variety there. And I mean, British fish and chips, you can like it or loathe it, but
done well, it's good. I mean, I had that when I went back, and it was done fried fresh, and it was lovely. It wasn't the healthiest thing. I wouldn't eat that every day.
I can't do the batter anymore. That's my biggest issue. No. If I'm going to have fish, it just needs to be grilled, just quite simple with a bit of lemon on top or something like that. Rather than that,
I would take that over fish and chips. To be fair,
yeah. Rather than that thick batter, which when you eventually get to the fish. Yeah, and that's it. But anyway, all right, we'll wrap it up, Mark. Been great speaking to you again, and we'll be in contact.
Great, Stuart.
Always all right, have a good one.
Look after yourself.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, mate.